Hi there, I'm Haruka. I get it, it's already March. Why am I talking about 2020 anime? Well, I started my YouTube career a little too late to really be relevant with this topic, and also my original plan to have a whole video about Lola Bunny and the WNBA ended up falling through due to faulty logic. I thought she was shorter, but it turns out LeBron is just taller than Jordan. This is really all I had as a backup. Whatever, fight me. Planning out videos is hard, especially when you change your schedule every week. Alright, so the general consensus on the year in anime for 2020 is that it was a rough year, so like everything else in the world. But I actually disagree with this assessment. It may not have been a really good year, but it certainly had some good shows, many of which seem to be ignored by the gritter weeb population. So I'm just gonna list off some anime that I think you should know about from 2020. First of all, there's some anime that I didn't actually watch this past year that I heard good things about, but for one reason or another I didn't watch them and probably won't end up watching them. Mostly because it's just not the type of anime I like Jujutsu Kaisen, which is a battle anime that looks really well anime and even won Anime of the Year in Crunchyroll Awards. I don't watch battle stuff. Then there was Dorohedoro, a grungy punk isekai? I don't know. I just know there's strong girls in it. In terms of shows I'll actually probably end up watching at some point is The Misfit at Demon Academy, a parody of most isekai school anime, and Nami Yokitakure, which has to do with radio, which is something I'm actually really familiar with. There's also a bunch of shows that were just juggernauts this past year, so I'm not going to go into full detail about them. Kaguya-sama, Re:Zero, Agretsuko, even Isekai Quartet all just hold too much clout to be on a list of shows you may have missed because I'm pretty sure no one missed them. Also, Kanekari's anime goes in this section, but I'd like to add the condition that you should read the manga because it's really good. And before I get into shows I liked, I'd like to also talk about a few shows that failed me. These are shows that I was really excited about either in the beginning or even before they started airing and something just didn't land. First on that list is Koizuru Asteroid. I'm a big fan of Yuri and Shoujo Ai. I just really like the warm and fuzzy feeling of it. The problem with a lot of Yuri and Shoujo Ai is that it is incredibly unremarkable. I watched Asteroid every week the day after it came out for half the season and then just eventually gave up because I couldn't connect with any of the characters. I did finish it eventually, but it felt like I was just running down the clock watching it. Next up is Tamayomi. I love girls baseball anime. It's kind of the one thing that I will stop everything for. It's the one series every season that I will watch even if I know it'll be terrible. And Tamayomi didn't disappoint in that aspect. Okay, actually it wasn't that bad, but much like Asteroid, it didn't fully connect. Combine that with the big episode 3 Funimation mix-up and you're gonna get people dropping the show like it's... I don't have a good analogy. Basically, Funimation was sent the rough cut of the episode instead of the finished product, and we were gifted with this masterpiece of animation. Finally, in the disappointment section is a show that I think a lot of people would place here, and that's Yesterday wo Utate. After the first episode, Yesterday looked like a show that would be a quiet, adult, coming-of-age story. It had an introspective tone and seemed prepared to follow along the path of a man who couldn't seem to integrate into the real working world and the struggle of trying to be an adult. Instead, it did something else. Maybe it did what I wanted it to do, but it was done in such a boring and meh way that I couldn't help but feel let down by a show I thought would be so much more. Alright, now it's time for the suggestions. I'll give you 2 more categories for suggestions and then a top 5 shows rundown. Let's go! So much like the disappointments having big expectations and being let down, there were shows that did the opposite. Just shows that came out of nowhere and actually did something that I wasn't expecting. And the first one I want to mention is Gleipnir. Gleipnir looked like edgy teen battle trash, and it pretty much is, but at the very least, it's written pretty darn well. Each character has their own Wishmaster power that relates back to their biggest insecurity, and the show goes a bit deeper into issues of trauma and how that relates to that sort of insecurity. It wasn't amazing, but it was more than the sum of its parts. Bofuri is on the other side of the big surprise spectrum by looking like the usual big, dumb SAO ripoff. Instead, it was a lesson in why you should playtest games with idiots in mind. The main character, Maple, is just so adorable and she is simply too cute to be contained. It's just a simple joy finding a show that you think will make you groan and instead getting treated with a show that simply makes you smile. Finally in the surprise group is Runway de Watate. I know nothing about fashion. I wear sweatpants most of the time, and if I'm going outside, I put on a flannel shirt that usually doesn't match anything I'm wearing. So why do I like this show about fashion? You know, I don't actually know. It runs like a battle shonen as well, and it feels like a sports anime despite the fact that it's literally just about high fashion and a girl who wants to be a supermodel. Look, if there's one show you didn't hear about last year that you need to check out, it's this one, because it's the sort of show that can get you interested in a topic you never even thought about. Alright, and here's the honorable mentions prior to the top 5. We're getting to the top 5, but YouTube Sama likes it when videos are long. So here's some more random shows to throw at you. Uzaki-chan! There's a lot of talk about unrealistic body proportions in this show, and I agree. I mean, just look at this man and explain to me how he's this ripped when all he does is sit around and play video games. Also, the show wasn't that bad. I really like the manga, and the anime was just a solid adaptation. I mean, the random cat that showed up as the mangaka's trademark was weird, but the Choco Mint rant was exactly the kind of controlled chaos I wanted. It's just a cute slice of life. Some people just don't want to have fun. Speaking of cute, Tonikaku Kawaii came out last year as well. There's a lot of people who seem to overrate the show since it was really one of the only big shows of the fall season. But even if I think the hype is too much, it doesn't mean it wasn't still really cute. I mean, it delivered on the promise in the title and was just a comfy feeling to watch. And finally on the honorable mentions list is a show that also just did exactly what it said on the tin. Monster Musume no Oisha-san is a show that clocked in and clocked out of work for every episode. It was simply a vehicle to provide cute monster girls, and it did exactly that. Were there questionable moments in it? Yes, but it was pretty much interspecies reviewers for those who weren't as horny. There were cute girls, I had a good time. Let's hear it for snake ladies and spider ladies. Alright, here we are, my top 5 anime of 2020, excluding all the ones I said I was going to exclude. Let's get it! And we'll start off at number 5, Keep Your Hands Off Aizoken. This anime is the closest thing to Oscar bait. Oscar bait is about making a movie about people who make movies. So this is an anime about making anime. Except unlike Shirobako, where it's about the struggle of the technical aspect, this is a celebration of creativity. It has a beautiful and unique art style provided by Masaki Yuasa, and the characters who inhabit this environment are truly amazing. The art design, the environment's both real and imagined, and even the sound design was done in such a way to create an experience that made you fall in love with the art form all over again. And this was just number 5. At number 4 is Adachi Toshimamura. I've already said that I really like Yuri and will try to watch any Yuri show. I just have a much lower tolerance for bad Yuri than I do for bad sports anime. And I'm so happy that I finally found a Yuri anime that delivers everything I could have wanted and a bit more. I'm an absolute sucker for dialogue. I love the Monogatari series. And the banter and relationships that develop between each of the characters reminded me of Monogatari for some weird reason. I don't know why, but the script just felt so beautifully crafted. And not just that, but visually it was amazing too. Yuri usually doesn't get that much of a budget in animation, and it feels like a lot of Yuri is just drawn with too gentle of a brush. But with the way that Adachi Toshimamura looks and sounds, it really should have just been named Yuri Monogatari, because for some reason, this entire show just felt like Monogatari without the mystical stuff. Okay, there was a weird space girl, but she's a whole different discussion. Number 3 is Great Pretender. It's a Netflix anime, so you know they're gonna get that Netflix money to make it look good. Hopefully. And at the very least, this time it looked good. All of the settings looked vibrant with a very distinct style. If Adachi Toshimamura reminded me of Monogatari, Great Pretender reminded me of a colorful Cowboy Bebop. From the soundtrack to the animation style to the accessibility of the show, it just all feels like Cowboy Bebop. It's just a heist movie, and while heist movies are usually confusing and annoying most of the time, Great Pretender did a great job at laying out amazing characters with realistic motives. This made the plans make sense in the end. Except for the last one, but whatever. This is a show you should be recommending to that non-weeb in your life who wants to know a good anime to watch. No Naruto or Boku no Pico, just hand them the Great Pretender. It's got Freddie Mercury! Coming in at second is My Next Life as a Villainess. This show rolled up onto the scene and absolutely changed the game. A normal isekai takes place in an MMORPG, not Villainess. Villainess is an otome game, something that shonen anime never even thinks about. A normal harem has a dude surrounded by girls. Not Villainess. Villainess has a girl surrounded by a harem equal parts boys and girls, because Bakarina is just such a Chad. She's an icon, and you completely understand why the harem was built because everything she does in kindness. And fear, but mostly kindness. She's a lovable idiot and she can't help but bring joy to people's lives. And there's a hidden story beautifully woven in about Bakarina's life prior to her getting isekai'd. Like, this show will make you laugh, but will also make you cry so hard and leave you with some really deep questions to ponder about mortality and what you leave behind in the world after you're gone. The show could have just been a simple harem isekai comedy, but it decides to have this complexity to it, and I can't. Number 1. I'm going to get so much shit for putting this at number 1, but I do not care. I loved it, and it is a perfect 10. Princess Connect Redive. Look, I wanted so badly to find a reason to drop this from a 10 in my mind, but I made no mistakes in my opinion. Like, think about the origins of this anime. It's just a gacha game. That's all, a gacha game. And then they go out and get the director of Konosuba, and the man must have used some sort of magic to pull together a coherent comedy that can also shift tone ever so slightly into a drama on the latter end of the season. I don't understand, and all I can do is just give the show this title. All the characters in the show are just so lovable. The dynamic of Kyoru being the straight man for Pecorine and Kokoro's reaction reaction shots to Yuki's completely brainless actions are just these things that I can't stop thinking and laughing about. It's just the same way that I will never stop thinking about Konosuba, because Takaomi Kanasaki has crafted the formula for actually fun and engaging isekai comedy. And that's it. That's the anime from 2020 that you missed. As I said, it wasn't a really good year for anime, but when it hit, I think it hit pretty hard. A lot of us just sort of slept on it because of a general sense of sadness in the world and the fact that we all discovered VTubers. Some of us in a more intimate way than others. So thank you for watching this filler episode, and next week is going to be a lot more fun.